As an aspiring filmmaker, but also an aspiring film critic, I'm sure I'm now shitting on any hypothetical and far-fetched chance I'll ever get of winning or being nominated for an Oscar. But that doesn't really matter, because the Oscars are bullshit. Why would that be? Well, despite the Oscars taking every opportunity to brag about Hollywood's favorite word, diversity, they don't exactly work like it's everyone's game when it comes to winning an award. Sure, film is a subjective medium, but whatever. The real problem with the Oscars, among many, is there isn't really any consistent fairness in how any eligible film or filmmaker can be nominated or win. The first problem is that you don't really win an Oscar, you buy an Oscar. That kind of sums up why there's been certain eyebrow-raising moments at this awards show. There's a shit ton of cost for a film on the way to Oscar glory, namely marketing, campaigning, promotions, and screening the film specially for voters, all of which can cost $10 million in total. That's even more money than the budget of arguably better films. How this all works is divided up into two phases. Phase 1 is about getting a film nominated by the voters, so all of this pandemonium basically begins from March, though the for your considerations get started once Oscar potentials get premiered at the festivals where award season faves usually debut. Starting from this time, one of the cheaper yet rather important costs are Oscar specialists and consultants, who are paid to let you know best how to spend this shit ton of dough during these two phases. Then the films that navigate their way through award season acclaim will have the filmmakers and actors doing up to 5 to 6 months of press, which will certainly be pricey for their travel and accommodations, as well as the cost of keeping them hostage so they don't take up work on any other movies. Other costs include lavish parties and private screenings held for voters, trying to entice them with dinners, drinks, and drugs to attend a special screening and convince them to vote for their film. Given the amount of food, booze, and coke needed for these folks, the costs add up drastically. Not everyone can attend these screenings, so there's always the cost of sending out DVD screeners to the shut-ins, and God bless these screeners and their eventual leaking. Time to talk about Phase 2 now. The films that end up nominated then begin Phase 2 of this craziness, where more rules are set in place. No more dinners, free food, or booze or drugs for film campaigns, and now the filmmakers are limited to a maximum of 4 Q&As with screenings, which I'm sure they're fucking relieved by. Although it's in a much shorter amount of time, lasting approximately a month, the bulk amount of advertising is done in Phase 2. Expensive billboard ads, expensive magazine ads, and expensive subliminal ads all work together as the films compete with each other for Oscar glory. But it sure as shit ain't a lot of films competing. Given the small amount of films able to afford all this, there's evidently a limited amount of films that end up getting nominated. Here's how things look for the number of films for these top awards. For each year there's between 40 to 45 nomination slots, yet the amount of films that fill them out has been less than half for the past decade, with the average amount of nominated films only 17. But an even bigger blind spot are foreign films. Many of them feature stunning acting and writing and all that, but I guess it's sometimes just not obvious enough for voters because the numbers for foreign inclusion seem to suggest the Oscars are mostly for English language films. Out of the potential amount, foreign films have made up a whopping 2.7% of nominations for these awards over the past decade, with no nominations at all in 5 of those years. Sacre bleu! The Academy could actively enforce more foreign inclusion among the voters. They've evidently done it before, but that would merely be a relatively ineffective band-aid solution. According to an armchair expert like me, here are the 3 solutions for Oscars bullshit. A. No more costly campaigns. That way each film has a fairer chance and there'd likely be more films getting nominated. 2. Set the Oscars a whole year later so that the voters have an extra year to catch up on the indie and foreign films that barely get a cinema release. And D. The voters should be made up of only film critics, as they have the time to watch far more films than these busy film industry folks that make up most of the voters. But ultimately, who gives a shit? As another year of award season fever sweeps past us and some of the heavily nominated or winning films become forgotten about, and not nominated films begin to grow a large audience, the Oscars, just like rigged dog racing, is more fun if you've got some money down. Just remember to gamble responsibly and smartly, because the Oscars are bullshit.